Hi, Georgia.
Hiya, I'm Georgia, and I'm a survivor of sexual abuse.
Okay, so just a little brief background.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're a survivor of sexual abuse. Just briefly, where did this happen? And um,
Um. Yes. So basically, I was put into the care system when I was quite young, due to issues like with my mum, and so I was put into the care system quite young, and the foster mum, she was fine, but the foster father wasn't, and he was the one
yeah,
that did a lot.
so sorry. Yeah, so I'll just cut you there. So that's just a brief outline of
Oh yeah,
of
yeah.
you now. So you're a survivor in care, abused in care. So how old was you? Let's start off with that. How old was you when you went into care, and what was the reason for it?
I was 3 when I went into care, and the reason was because my birth mum, was a drug addict. Um,
Okay.
and she was also in a violent relationship.
Okay, that's awful. So, you went into the care. What age was you when you went into care?
About 4 years old.
Okay, about four. And what was it like when you first went in there? And what was the atmosphere like for you?
Um, it wasn't a very nice atmosphere. My first foster home that I went into, the lady that was doing the foster care already had 3 children of her own. So walking into that, it wasn't a very nice atmosphere because obviously they were her own children. Um, you could tell they didn't really want me there, and a lot of it for them was about the money side of it. Um, and I was left out quite a lot. And she looked after her own 3 natural children, but left me out quite a lot. Yeah.
Uh, Okay, so and how was the other children around you? Was
At first, I think they were a bit like, oh, this I'm gonna have to share this girl, I'm gonna have to share my mum, with this child. But I think after a while, yeah, I think they were all right after a while. But it was never perfect. We never had a decent relationship or anything.
no, of course. And what was the dad like with you? Was he there at the time, or was it just a single mom?
That was just a single mum, that foster placement. And obviously she had her own 2 children. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you moved in there at the age of four, single mom, and how many children was there?
She had
Sorry,
2 living with her.
2 children. And did you encounter any problems while you was at that place?
Um, I think apart from I felt like I was being left out a lot. The
Yeah,
other 2 children had a lot of like activities that they were allowed to go to, and they were allowed to do, and I wasn't really allowed to do anything like that. So I definitely felt like I was the odd one out.
so you was
Yeah.
a bit neglected really
Yeah.
at that one there. And how long was you there for?
I was moved quite a lot. I think I was only there for about 6 months. I've
So
had
you was
quite a lot of placements.
so you was moved in there at the age of four, and 6 months into it, I guess you was still four then, was you, when you moved? Roughly, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
This is what it says in the thing.
so you moved on then, still at the age of four, into another home.
Yeah.
What was it like there?
It was an elderly couple, and they lived on like a sort of of a farm. And it was really nice there. But unfortunately they were only temporary foster carers, so
Yeah.
they weren't allowed to keep um a foster child for any more than a few months. Which was really unfortunate because I really got on with them and I really liked being there. They had a lot of animals, like a little farm,
Yeah.
and I think that was a positive, memory for me. But the only one.
Okay. Okay, that's really good. So they moved you in there as a temporary measure. Obviously, these things occur quite often where um, social services can't get the child into a permanent place, so they put them into temporary. But
Yeah.
obviously, for the child, that isn't always great because it's
It's just constant moving.
you're constant moving, you're getting no stability,
No.
especially at a young age, and you're not getting, because you at the end of the day, when you're moving into foster care, you want someone that you can call your mom or your dad, really, because you're gonna spend from the age of 4 up till, you'd like to think, up to the age of 18 or 16,
Yeah,
and you'd like to look up to them as your parents. So obviously, you moved
definitely.
into that one,
It's hard enough anyway, isn't it, without it being any
yeah.
more harder.
So you was there for, how long did you say you was there for?
Yeah, not long because they were only temporary foster carers for about a few
So
months.
so you was only there a few months,
Yeah.
and then moved on again. Are you allowed to say what kind of area of the country this was going on?
This was in Bristol,
Bristol, yeah,
like South Bristol area, and Bath.
yeah.
So
Okay,
those sort of it was never out of that area. It was always within those areas.
okay. So you was always in with like the Bristol, Bath area.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
you just never moved too far. And so when
No,
you moved again, to another home, and what were they like?
this was where I stayed for a good few years, until I put myself back in the care system. Um, and this is obviously where I was abused in this place. Um, it was a mother and a father together, and they had a 6-month-old baby. But the mother was a carer, um, a
Yeah.
carer for the elderly, so she was away a lot, and it was the foster father that was giving like most of the care. So yeah, at that point, that was when it started, when she was away.
And
Uh,
you was around the age of 5 then, really, when that was happening.
yeah,
Age of 5. So when you moved in there, what was the atmosphere like at that place?
um, it was a really small house. I remember it being a really small house, and obviously they had a baby, a 6-month-old baby, and I remember like going in and just thinking like, what, where am I gonna go? Where am I gonna sleep? And I remember them just saying like, there's your bed, and pointed to the sofa. And I just remember thinking like, really? But yeah, that
So
was
you,
like,
so you was moved into this house with the
yeah,
foster family.
yeah.
Um, and was it do they check these places out first and the people? Was it checked out by social service? Probably at a young age, you might not remember.
No, I don't know. No,
No, see, so you've been
I
moved into a
definitely didn't go
house.
there first. I definitely didn't go to like view it or anything.
So they've moved you into this house, um, at a young age. You'd expect when you're moving in with a family that you get your own room and your own little
Yeah,
space, and they
yeah.
put you on the sofa, and that was just like in the living room.
Yeah, just in the living room, like next to like all the baby like stuff. And like I just remember like thinking, and I think their excuse in the end was that they needed the room for the baby.
So they've took you on. Obviously, with these families, obviously you had similar issues. You had issues with the first one. They're getting paid a weekly amount to have you there.
Yeah,
So, which that money is supposed to be going to you as a, they're supposed to be using that to support you, but in some cases they're using that as like a little earner on the side. Sad as it is, it's like
well, they
the
clearly didn't have.
first the first home you was in at the age of 4, they wasn't nice to you, wasn't very welcoming, the woman. Um, so it's almost the same case where she's took you on, she's getting paid. It's like £200 a week, I think it is now, something like that, to have you there. So it's kind of, in some ways, it's a little earner for them. They're getting
Yeah,
paid £200. Without the social services on their back, they just do what they want. So you're in this place at the age of 5. They've shoved you in the living room on the sofa. So
and I
so
think back
really,
then. Go on, sorry.
no. So was it a 2-bed house? I'm guessing, just their room and
Yeah,
then a,
yeah, yeah. It was they had their room, and then there was another room, and it was quite littered, got cluttered in there. And I think that's where the baby went after a few months. But I think it's important to say that those days they didn't really do as much checks as they do now. Obviously, they still get it wrong
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
but I don't think they did half as many checks as what they do now. But I mean, I don't think they put a foster child, on the sofa now. But
No, of course not. So obviously you've moved into a house that isn't really adequate. Two
yeah,
bedrooms with a baby there as well, which the
yeah,
baby has to have its own room really at some point. So when that time came, they put the baby in that room,
yeah.
and you're on the sofa. So yeah, so we'll go on from there. Obviously, you put onto the sofa. And what was life like with them from then on?
Um,
What happened?
it was more the foster mother, the foster care of the mother. She did like really, really long hours working as a carer. So when I used to get up, she would be gone. And then like all through the day, it would be him giving the care to like the baby and me. And then by the time I went to bed, she would still be gone. So I never really saw her, to be honest. I only saw her in passing. Um, but yeah, I wasn't even in any sort of like school or anything either. I don't know why. Can't remember why, but I just remember being there like all day and all night and just constantly just being there.
Okay, so and how, so that you was 5. How long was you in this place for? How
Until I
long
was
was it?
9.
So you was there for about 4 years, three to
Yeah,
4 years.
yeah.
Um, and in that time, did you did you go to school eventually?
No, I
Primary
didn't
school.
go to school the whole time I was there. I don't know whether that was because he didn't want me to say anything or he was worried that I would slip up and mention something. I don't know.
So from 5 till 9, you was in that house on the sofa.
Yeah.
It wasn't an adequate living arrangement, and they wasn't sending you to school, which obviously in a normal family,
You
say
would.
for me when I was a child, if I went going to school, um, the authorities would be on the phone to my mom,
Yeah.
saying, "Why isn't your child in school?"
Yeah.
Um, the parent gets fined. All these things go on. Like if I was to go on holiday with my mom or things like that, they're on your case obviously instantly. So you're in a foster house,
Yeah.
you're on the sofa, not going to school. So
No.
these things aren't looked at. Not No one seems to be bothered. And
No.
what was happening to you at the house? Obviously, you say you've suffered with the abuse.
Yeah.
What happened to you?
So yeah, it did felt like no one cared, like no authority came to the house or anything to like ask why I wasn't in school. But yeah, like through the time that I was there, he was I did suffer sexual abuse from him quite a lot, pretty much nearly every day, depending on how he felt. But obviously he did have the time to do it because his wife was at work like pretty much all the time. Um, and literally he'd just leave the baby in the cot and yeah, just be like, yeah, he would
From what
yeah.
is that from when you moved in, or did it
No, it didn't start straight away. I think it was few months into it, to me being there.
a few
And
months?
yeah, go on.
So no, sorry, to be rude. So obviously, he was sexually abusing you from that age. Don't feel like you have to go into detail, but obviously,
I think it was a gradual thing. Like, he didn't just like, it wasn't straight away. It was a gradual thing. It was like, if you're better off here than you will be anywhere else. If you say anything, then you'll be sent to a worse place than here. Things like that. It was a gradual thing.
okay. Can I ask what he was doing to you? Or
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it just started off like making me do things to him. Um, then like do like touch me, and then he'd be like, and then it would just get worse and worse then from there until it got to the point where he was raping me pretty much on a
And
daily basis.
that's awful. And how long did this go on for? Was this the whole time you was there?
Yeah,
Pretty much.
it was, like I said, it wasn't straight away, but from the time that he first started, there was no going back. He was doing it every day until I was like, I can't, I've had enough. I can't take any more, and I went to the social services office.
Obviously, you was a very young child, so I mean, this can happen to kids at any age. But when you're
Yeah,
so young, it's so hard to have the confidence to just speak out, especially when you've never been in surroundings that you can build that confidence up. You've never been
yeah,
around that many people. You've
yeah.
been not had the chance to go to school.
No,
So when you're not in that human contact with people, it's hard for you to build that confidence up.
yeah,
It's them surroundings that you need to be in. So it's hard for that reason there. It's hard for you just to speak out and say, "Oh, this is happening to me." And so,
yeah.
how old was you? Do you think when you
I
spoke out?
believe, I believed, not to say this, I believed what he was saying about, if you say anything, then you'll be put somewhere a lot worse than here, and I believed his threats. I believed that he was capable of that. And I think, it carried on and it just got worse and worse and worse. And I knew he wasn't going to stop. And I think, yeah, I think at the end, I just had to go. I walked into the social services office and I just said, look, I need to speak to someone. This is happening to me. And they said, so are you making an allegation? And I've said, well, yes, I am. And I don't want to go back there.
And what was the response from the social services?
I think they sat me down and they said, look, do you realise what you're saying? Do you know the difference between right and wrong? Um, and I think they give a couple of examples of like, if I was to say this, would that be a lie or a fact? And I don't think they believed what I was saying at first because obviously he was a registered foster carer. But obviously then when I went through the testing at the hospital and everything, they had no choice but to believe me.
Okay, so obviously they got you out of that place. That's good. And what happened to him? Did he get convicted for what he was doing to you?
Yeah, he got convicted and he got an 18-month suspended sentence.
Right. I mean, that never sits right with me because he's been convicted, but he's suspended, so he's still in theory out on the streets.
Yeah, he's
Um,
out.
was he put on the register? Was he put on the sex
10 years,
register?
10 years on the register.
Okay, so that's something, I guess. Um, so in that you was at the age of 9 then, you've come out of that place.
Yeah.
Um, social services have helped you in that way. He's been convicted. So what
Yeah.
happened then? Where did they put you then?
They didn't put me back into a foster home. They put me into like it was like a children's home. They put me in there, and it was for like it was a children's home, but it was like a therapeutic community. Um,
Okay.
Obviously at that stage I was showing like signs of like playing up and stuff like that because obviously I just didn't
Yeah,
know how to cope with what had happened. So
of course, yeah.
yeah, they sent me to like a therapeutic community, and it was like a children's home, but you go to school there, you do everything there, and I think you get one support worker to each person, um, so you get quite a lot of support there, and I think that's where I did most of my counselling and everything to try and overcome, what he'd done.
That's really good. So what was the atmosphere like there around other kids, and how did you
Um,
get on with them?
yeah, like it shocked me at first because I'd never been, obviously, like I said, I'd never been to school or I'd never
Yeah,
associated with that many kids at the same time. Maybe like in my life I'd associated with like two or three kids at one time, but never like 30 or 40. So obviously it was quite hard for me at first, and like a lot of my anxieties come from there. Like even now I struggle being around loads of people like in the
of
same
course.
room.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, like I did settle down and I did get on with it.
So obviously from the age of 4 till 9, I mean, you'd been in a situation, you'd been in surroundings where you hadn't had many children around you. You weren't going to school, and that wasn't investigated. So you've been shoved straight into a place that's really probably helped you a lot. But you've been put
Mm.
into a surrounding where you've around loads of kids. That's something, a new environment to you,
Yeah.
and you've never known how to deal with that because you've never been put around kids where you should be as a child that age. Did you make any friends there, or did you find it really hard?
At first I found it really hard because obviously like I'd never been given the opportunity. I didn't know how to play. I didn't know how to communicate with other children. Um, I didn't know how to speak to other children. So obviously I did find it really difficult at first, but I think like as my counselling and that and the therapy that I had there, as that like progressed, I think I, got on a bit better with them.
Okay. And the other kids there, were they survivors, or was it from different backgrounds? Troubled
Um,
kids.
yeah, most of them were survivors because it was a therapeutic community. So if something had happened to them, whether it was sexual abuse or neglect, something could happen to all of them. And like I did hear a lot of stories from there, which are horrific, like much, much worse than mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, something could happen to like each and every single one of them.
Okay. And what were the staff like with you? Were they all really nice, really?
They were nice, yeah. Obviously, they were strict because they had to be. They've got like 30 children with
Of
issues
course.
playing on a day-to-day basis, and they're on shift work, so they can be with you from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. So
Yeah.
obviously, that does put a lot of pressure on someone. But yeah, they were okay. Yeah,
Obviously, due to what happened to you, it's just similar with other children and teenagers when they suffer kind of abuse and their attitudes change in life and how they are. Do you remember kind of how you was as a child that young, around 9? Was you 9, 10?
yeah. I think a lot of the time I was just like, oh well, I think I built this barrier up of like not caring or didn't want to care because I felt like if I did care, then something bad was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I built that barrier up from a really young age of not care. Like I was just like, oh, I don't care. And I felt like that I needed to do that in order to protect, myself.
And did you find yourself playing up, being like a naughty child at the
Yeah,
age?
yeah, I played up a lot. Yeah, a lot. Did a lot of naughty things, like most children would do, but I went a little bit further every time.
Yeah, of course. And obviously, after what you'd gone through, you'd suffered a lot. You'd been put in bad surroundings. I mean, these things happen to kids that have suffered that, and a lot of
Yeah,
the times it is natural because you don't know. You've never been taught anything in life to the age of 9. You've never been to school. You've been abused. You don't know what's right and what's wrong. You haven't been taught any of that. You've just been through the rough of it, and that's
yeah,
all you knew. So
yeah.
how long was you at this care place for?
I was there till I was 16.
Okay, so
But I think a lot of the care workers as well they did say to me, like, look, you can either go through life, you can't keep using it as an excuse. Like, there's plenty of people that have been through more trauma than you have, but they're not playing up. And I think they were just trying to shock me into, they didn't want me to keep going down that wrong path.
yeah,
So they did try and keep saying to me, look, you can't keep using that. You're going to have to try and get past that. I think they were just trying to do the best for me.
okay. And what was the living arrangements in that place? Did you have your own room? Um,
Yeah, yeah, we had our own room. There was like a bungalow and then there was a house and like we were half shared. So there was 30 children. So like there was a massive mansion house. So like 15 were in there and then like 15 were in this like really long bungalow.
okay.
And then like at
And
the courtyard there was like school like a um school like where we used to go.
Yeah.
building school.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I worked at a similar place when I was a bit younger. I worked for a hospitality agency, and I used to go to this place near Telford. But that was for they had a building for autistic kids or naughty kids, trouble kids, and then they had a building for kids with eating disorders. But it was the same arrangement. They had a school there, dining room, kitchen. I guess it was all on site, so they'd have had like a teachers there, school, kitchen with cooks that worked there, and
Yeah,
then the dining room, would it just come off the kitchen?
yeah,
And
yeah.
then
So it would be in the kitchen
okay, yeah.
with a really
So
long table.
yeah, so obviously all the kids would be in the dining room come breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and
Yeah,
supper, I guess, as well.
yeah,
Did you have supper? Yeah. So
yeah.
and what about things like watching TV and things like that? Was that did you did people come sit in a room together and watch TV or?
I think I think like your family could bring you like because we all had our own room, and I think like if you had like your own family, they could bring you a TV for your room.
Okay.
I think I do. I'm pretty sure that there was a room that you could sit in and watch telly because obviously not
Mm,
everyone did have a family to bring them a telly,
of course, yeah.
So I'm sure there was. I can't specifically remember it, but I'm sure there would have been.
So obviously, you said at the age of 4 that you basically left your mum. Was there any family that stayed in contact with you or tried to? Any
And
relatives?
my nan did. She stayed in touch with me for quite a long. She wrote to me, sent me money, and things like that until she passed away.
Oh, okay. So basically, the real family that you had was your nan.
Yeah,
Um, and I mean, you must have took that really hard because it's one person. I mean, for me and for others, we have a big family. Um, and you have your brothers, your sisters, or your mum, your dad, and then your aunts or uncles. So obviously you've grown up through your life, and the only family that you had there was your nan. So that must have been really hard for you when
yeah.
that happened.
Like she's the only one that's ever like really cared about me. Like when I was in like the care system, I used to like ring her and like I used to be able to go around and like see her or meet her, with the carer or like it got to the stage
Okay.
where it got to the stage though when with the carer that they were in the foster placement where I was being abused, it got to the point where they didn't want me to see her. I think they were a bit worried about
Mm.
what I was going to say. So I went for a bit where I didn't see her. But I think when I told her what had been happening, I think she understood.
Okay, that's good. And how old was you when your nan passed away, if I can ask?
3 years ago, she passed away. So 25.
3 years. Okay, so you basically you'd had that support from your nan when you was through all the foster care and in the care system. You always had.
Yeah.
You always,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. My
She was.
nan.
You always had that.
Yeah. Yeah. She did used to support me, and she did used to send me letters and cards and that. But the thing is with my nan, she's very like she doesn't like confrontation. So
Yeah,
I
of
think
course.
like when someone says to her, "Look, we don't want you to see her because she it would upset her," meaning me, that's what he was saying to her. I think she just thought, "Okay, I'll leave it." She didn't like try and fight it.
Yeah. So up to the age of 16, you was there. Did you just wow? How did that come about? For people that are watching this that don't understand this whole system, obviously, you're in there. There's obviously you've got foster care, and then you've got the care system in a care home. So in a care home, you can leave at the age of 16, can't you?
Yeah, yeah,
And then if you're stuck in a foster care, which this is a different thing, you can be abused in foster care, but you can be there till the age of 18, and there's no kind of
I think
break
sometimes
free.
it's even 21 now.
So you can be in that system for 18 to 21, and it's
Mhm.
hard to break free. So you'd been from you'd been there from the age of was it 5? You was
Yeah.
in the care home till the age of 16. So you've come out at 16. You'd been at school. What kind of, because everything had a bearing on you. You didn't really start your school until 9. So did you manage to do quite well in school?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I didn't do very well in school. I had to go back and sit my exams because I didn't leave with any.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
but yeah, I haven't. I did manage to resit and get them, but yeah, not straight away because I think I
No,
just had so much going on in my head and my mind that I
yeah.
just couldn't be. Every time they were asking me to like focus, I just couldn't.
So that's good. So you managed to get some kind of qualifications. Was that at a college
Yeah,
afterwards in
yeah,
Bristol?
yeah.
So you've got that. You've come out. You've got your qualifications. Where did you go from there? What was happening in your life at that time?
So after that, there's a block of flats where they put me, and it's like warden, like so basically you have like someone coming around once a day to make sure that you're all right. But it's pretty much independent living. It's just a block of flats, and you have one of the flats, and it's for young people from the ages of 16 to 21 that live there. Um, and that's where I went. That's where they put me. So basically, I went from being in with a lot to being used to being around a lot of people to being in my own flat. So it's a lot of changes going on there.
And did you have any problems there with the people in the flats or?
No, no, it was pretty. Everyone just pretty much kept themselves to themselves.
Okay then. And did you manage to take up some kind of work in that period when you was in the flats?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I started just doing like little, just like agency, like a bit of bar work, bit of things like that. I never really did like I never stayed with something. I just doing little bits and that. But I think that's just from where I feel like I can't stay in one place. I've really
Yeah,
struggled with that. Like I've really struggled with that over the years, like staying in one place. I've always done things like you know, a bit of time here, a bit of time there.
yeah, of course. Okay, so how old was you then when you obviously in the flats? How long was you in the flats for?
I stayed there till I was 21 because it's from 16 to 21.
Okay, so I think that's basically it. That we'll go with on that one. We've gone through your life as a child in care, foster care, where you was abused, and you moved into a proper, well, a care home system where you did your school in there.
Yeah.
There was care workers there. You was looked after. They tried to help you as a person, um, and then you've came out. Obviously, due to everything that had gone on in your life, you found it very hard to um, for schooling, doing school. You find it very hard. So that was a thing for you. Um, and obviously, your mind would have been all over the place. Concentrating would have been horrible. And then
Yeah.
you're in a situation where you're around loads of kids sat there doing work, and then you have your break times and things like this. So, I mean, something at the age of 9, when you start school at like 5, um, you've got 4 years there. Say for me or for the viewers that are watching this, you'd have 4 years where you're around kids, you're playing,
Yeah.
um, you're in that normal environment, and you're getting to know people. So you'd been put in a care home, and you'd miss that 4 years where the foster dad wouldn't let you go to school, so you'd miss 4 years, and it wasn't checked on by social services. There was no involvement there. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
As I said, for me or for the viewers watching, normally when you're in a family with your mum or your dad, and if
Yeah.
they take you out of school for even a few days, you'd have the authorities on your door or ringing up.
Yeah.
Your mum would get a fine, or your dad, or whoever your family members that looks after you.
Yeah.
This isn't often the case with care. Um, I've witnessed it recently with a young girl that's been in a situation in care, and when she was out of school or whatever, there was no check, nothing.
No.
So that's obviously a real issue with the authorities, with social services. I mean, a girl that's missed out on 4 years of her life in school, and social services and the authorities did nothing to check up on that.
Yeah.
There was was there ever a well-being check or anything like that where you was?
I think I had one about once every 3 months.
Okay, and basically, because of the fear that you was in and where you was, you just said, "Oh, everything's okay," basically.
I think like a lot of the time when they did come round, they didn't request to see me on my own.
Yeah.
It's all done in front of him. So I think if they'd have asked to see me on my own, I think it would have come out a lot sooner.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I also had a forced adoption as well, due to my issues that they say that I can't parent, but that's another matter.
Yeah. Well, I was going to go on to that with the forced adoption. We're going to cut that off, and I hoping the guys at Families Destroyed by the State or basically take that one on, so we can kind of link in with them with our unities, what we're doing at the moment. So possibly Katie will interview you on that one.
Yeah.
As it's their kind of subject, and their mothers and fathers failed by the state. But often this is an issue that does arise when you've been abused in care, and you've been abused yourself. It's happened to others where they've been abused, and they say, because you can't look after yourself, you can't look after your child. But they can't ever say that until you've had that child and it's been in your care. But I was like, we'll leave that for the forced adoption. And yeah, I think it's just a real eye opener for anyone watching this, that what really can go on in care and how the authorities do act. Even 4 years missed of education and no one stepped in. It's really shocking, to be honest.
No one even questioned why I wasn't no one questioned it. But like I said, if that was a mother or a father that hadn't sent their child to school in a normal family environment, then they would have been fined and.
Yeah, and this was Bristol. So obviously Bristol was you one of the Bristol social services? What does it go as where you was, kind of the area?
Oh, I think it's just Bristol social services, I think.
So Bristol social services.
Avon in Somerset, I think.
Yeah, okay. But obviously, you think they've got a lot of to answer for there. A child's out of school, not been to school for the first 4 years, no education, and then struggled in when they actually got to school because of what had gone on. And obviously, you'd put into the block of flats, and I guess, did you get some kind of aftercare there? Did they just pop in on you, see that you was okay?
Very little aftercare. I think like when they moved me into that flat, they felt I was ready to live independently. So yeah, very little, maybe once in a blue, not very often, but once every 3-4 months, if that. And then it would just be literally like they'd come and they'd say, "You okay?" And I'd be like, "Yeah," and then they'd leave literally a couple of minutes. There was never anyone that I could fully sit down with and say, I need help with this and this. Can you help? I had to do it all.
And was you ever given anything to say if you ever need to call anyone, or if you need counselling or this kind of support, you can do this?
No.
Nothing. No. Okay. Yeah. I think we'll probably cut this here. Thanks for coming on, Georgia. For anyone who's watching this, Georgia is a part of our team on Facebook and YouTube. So she will be getting more involved in the channel going forward. We'll try and do some debates and things like this and talking about care and the subjects. Obviously, this is specifically child abuse as well, so it does fall under our topic. of the grooming. So it's something that I wanted to raise awareness and just open people's eyes up today.